Okay, so I've got my section view open just so that you can see those two roof shapes that I've already made. And I thought it's a good chance just to quickly look at how we can make the display of those roofs a bit better. When you select them, you can go to Edit Type, and they've got the same option as you had for the walls, that coarse scale fill colour and fill pattern. You can see the colour's already set to black, and so to see that black colour, I've then just got to set the fill pattern to solid. And now all of the roofs of that type, the generic 125mm roof, go black in section. In 3D, of course, they're not black on the inside, it's just when they're cut. And so now we want to make this little projecting gable roof form which sits on the face of this wall here. So that's a parapet wall, and if you know Revit, you'd probably know that you can just pick the surface of that wall to draw on, but at first it's going to be much easier for you, and even later when you know how to do all the different tricks, it's still useful to be able to draw on a plane that you've created, on a reference plane. And so here you can see in that section view again, I've got the reference plane that sits on the surface of the wall, and when we choose the reference plane, you've got the option then to name it. And I'm just going to call that entry wall exterior. So that's important. By giving it a name, that makes it much easier to select. So whenever you select it, you'll see the name comes up on the reference plane now. And so then I'm going to switch to the elevation that's looking towards this wall. So I'm just going back to the plan view to make it clear which elevation we need to look at. So you've got north, south, east and west. So of course this elevation over here is our west elevation, and that's the one that's pointing towards the entry. So we go to that elevation, you can double click on the arrowhead to open it. Oops, does work. Or in the project browser you can just go to west in the elevations. Okay, so now we can see that wall, we can see the little bit of the gutter poking out from the roof we just made and the arch made earlier. And so now I'm going to go to roof by extrusion. And so then it's going to ask us to choose a plane because we're drawing in elevation. But because we've given that reference plane a name, I can choose it from the list here and simply choose exterior wall, entry wall exterior. Okay. And then this level, technically it needs to be there. It's going to have a host level, but this level doesn't really have an effect. Except if you delete the level, it will delete the roof. So choose a level that you're going to keep. And we're going to keep all of these levels, so it doesn't really matter which one, but I'm going to choose level 1 CL. But if you're wondering, it doesn't have any effect on the high view roof, this level, it's just a hosting thing. So again, level 1 CL though makes sense. And I'll click OK. And then I'm going to draw the shape I want the roof to be. So it's, again, showing in the elevation here. And this is just a decorative thing. You're not going to do much with this roof shape, so you just need to make it look basically like it does there. So you can draw from the intersection of that level and the wall on either side, doesn't matter which side you start on, and bring it up basically it's 45 degrees. So if you're going from the right, that's going to be 135 degrees because it's 90 plus 45. And then you can come back down the other way, and again 135 degrees, there we are. So that's the basic shape, but you can see there I've gone past this wall. So now I can simply select that line and click on the move button, pick it up on the bottom left corner, and then take it across so it snaps to the wall. So that's the roof shape, but this time I'm going to change the roof type to generic 125 before I finish it. Tick to finish, and you can see it's basically right, and to be honest, I've never checked the measurement for this roof, so it could actually be set down below this level here, And it's good for you to see that because you can see that the edge that you draw ends up being the top of the roof. So you could leave it like that. I think actually that's probably the way it really is. I'm not even going to look at it in front. I'm pretty sure it is. But if you did want to move it up, you could always just click the move button, snap to the bottom, and then bring it up. But I think it actually works better if it's lower. And so you could leave it like that. It's fine. So we've got the elevation drawn, but what do we still need to establish? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's it. We don't know how deep it is by looking in this view. So if I go to the 3D view, you can see it's actually going probably the opposite way to what you would have expected. It's going back from that plane. But no problem. I can just zoom out to find the back of it and use that arrow to stretch it forward, and you can take it all the way, even past the wall that you've drawn it on. So it goes forwards from there. It'll end up being a negative extrusion value, but that's okay. And there we are. So I'm just going to by eye bring it so it's a little bit behind this wall. You don't want it to be flush with that usually. Again, this is such a terribly built building, it may be flush, but normally you want that set back. Or it could be projecting it, who knows. I mean, the builders probably just made it up as they went, but yeah, something like that. So that's the first roof, that's your gable roof. And you can put fascias on that, just like the other one. If you want to make it look a bit more finished off, you can use the roof fascia and pick those front faces. And to give you a tip there, you don't want to pick the side at the same time because it's going to connect those. We don't want that. So I'll undo that and then just pick the first two faces on the front to do our nice gable. Then I'll do a new fascia, so I'll start it again and pick the side.
Does the thing on the top say restart?
That's right.
So is that the same?
Exactly, yeah, that's right, it is, yeah. So, yeah, so that way they're not connected.
Why would we not want them connected?
Oh, well, typically, so this one's called a barge board, and that would go, well, it wouldn't be connected to the one on the side, and also you want the option to be able to stretch that out so it can project and hide the gutter. So that's typically the way these are built. And then if you want to, you could put a gutter on the side. I don't think you really need a gutter here, but you'd have to have a look at it. Traditionally, they wouldn't have put a gutter, but then if they've gone and done work to this over the years, they probably did add a gutter at some point. But have a look at those little roof forms. If you look around at things like dormers and other small roof forms like this, you'll see traditionally the standard detail is not to have a gutter.
And would you connect that gutter to the...
No, that'd be separate. So actually, let's have a look at the photos. I'm curious to see how it really is. There definitely would be a gap, but then they may not even have the gutter on the front part. Okay, so I'll just take it off. So yeah, you can just see there, actually it's set back a little bit. So that's all right, we can go and fix that. So yeah, so they've got a gutter. Oh, see, you can see what a bodgy building job this is. I would take that off. Don't put a gutter along the front of a gable. There is no need. That is just bodgy building. It looks terrible and it's wrong. The reason it looks bad to us is because it doesn't make any sense. There's no drainage. Yeah, it's just, that's what happens when people modify things over the years. And there we are. So you can see here, here's the upper gutter and then the other one. So I would change it and say, look, this is wrong, what they've done. So some builders come along and just stuck that on the front. It's wrong. Traditionally, there would not have been a gutter there at all. And it looks much better without the gutter. Have a look at some dormers. You'll see those dinky little gutters that they put on the new ones look much worse than the traditional dormers where they just have the ends of the rafters exposed and the roof.
So would you definitely not need the gutter there?
No, you don't need it.
The water wouldn't come through to the front door?
Well, it's such a small roof that you wouldn't worry about it. You'd let the water just run off to the side. But in fact, sorry.
What about the electrical?
Yeah, so that'd need a valley. That'd have a valley gutter up against between the wall and the roof. So that's a different type of gutter. It's a concealed gutter basically that's done mostly with flashing type materials. To the front. Yeah, so that's maybe why they brought this across, because they didn't want to put a downpipe on the other side. But yeah, you'd have a downpipe on the other side. That's the better way of doing it rather than have... So they've, instead of putting a downpipe over here, they put a gutter there that takes the water from that side probably to this side and then around. But that's not the correct way to detail it. Yeah, yeah. But you'd have one there anyway for that other roof, so that's fine. That's a better way to do it, because the other roof needs a downpipe anyway. So that's what I would have done. But again, when you let builders make it up as they go, they do these things that are architecturally incorrect, but it works. But yeah, so you've got a, this gutter, and that one needs a downpipe. So that's definitely what I would have done. And I would even look at doing concealed downpipes here, because you've got these posts that essentially could work as downpipes possibly, or you could even look at concealing it somehow in the wall. There are a few different options. But exposed downpipes are okay as well. Downpipes can actually be a good architectural feature. So, yeah, so it's good to just quickly look at this. If you have that, again, this is optional. You don't need to put this much detail in, but if you want to have a go at it, you could then leave that gutter on the right maybe, because, traditionally they let water run off onto the property, which now isn't such a good idea because of lots of bureaucratic reasons mostly, but Sydney Water essentially don't want you to have that. So I'll leave the gutter there, and then I'm simply going to go back to Edit Profile and try stretching this line back a little bit so that it's not poking out from the edge of the wall. Finish it, and you'll see that takes the gutter and everything else with it. And you can raise the barge board if you want to. Again, this is all optional, but it's good just to play around with some of these things. So the vertical offset, I'll make, say, 50. That just lifts it up. And when you extend it, that's the traditional approach to a gable, having the barge board extended to cover the gutter. And there we are, something like that. The problem with Revit is that they don't want you to model the roof sheeting. You can model it, there are tools for that, but you don't normally need to, because you'll see later you can set a material that's still flat, but it's going to look like roof sheeting, and you just live with the fact that it's not going to be as deep as the gutter, or you can lower the gutter, that's the other option. Yeah, I don't want to go too far with this, but you can definitely make it look however you need to. And, oh yeah, now what have I done on the left? I've got that edge there coming back too far as well, so I'll go and edit that profile again and see what I've done there. And by eye, I can just stretch that. Yeah. And that, again, takes the fascia with it, but again, it's looking a bit weird now because it's uneven. So back to edit profile, and by eye, I would move that edge so that it's closer to the centre. And again, it's such a little thing, it wouldn't need to be much better than that. It's really just to get the look. You're not needing to worry too much about construction. Yep. But if you've got to show it, you may as well make it look decent. There we are. So there's that fiddly little roof. Then the next one's even more fiddly, but it's a good chance again to look at some of the modelling tools. So take your time with this one, and if you don't get it the first few times, don't worry, you can go on to other things and then always come back to this. But again, it's good to get some exposure to these modelling tools. So you'll see that the tools we've been looking at, like wall, roof, floor, will let you make most of the things you need in the shape that you want, but not always. And so it's really important that you realise that you can make anything, any shape you want, using model in place. So the component model in place is basically a freeform modelling tool. And so notice you can set ceilings, floors, even walls as your category, which means essentially you can use these freeform modelling tools to make any of those objects. So the walls button is basically the automatic walls, and the roof button, again, they're the automatic roofs. But you can make any shape you want using this approach. So I'm going to choose roofs as my category, and then OK. And the name is just for you. So I'll call it roof balcony, just so I know what it is. And then I get my modelling tools. So for this one, it's actually a bit of a tricky one to start with. We're going to come back and go right through all of these, and the most important one by far is extrusion. And you've all used SketchUp, so you know push-pull, it's basically the same as that. But the one we have to use here is sweep. It's a bit more involved, but if you follow these steps, it'll work. So with a sweep, once you click sweep, you've got two components in a sweep. You've got the path and then the profile. So if you haven't come across a sweep before, the best way to think of it is if do you remember the Alcan trucks that used to go around to make gutters? You might not. Anyhow, maybe I'll show you how old I am. It was a real 70s thing. They'd have, you probably do remember Alcan? They got folded up into Cackrel, which is not as good a name. But Cackrel, they're the company that supplied most of the aluminium products in Australia, and it used to be Alcan for years and years, and that was a much better name. You knew Alcan was aluminium. And they had their trucks going around to extrude the gutters on site. And so those gutters could be any shape to go onto any roof, and that was a good example of a sweep. So you had the profile of the gutter, and then that could go along any direction, but then it could turn a corner and then go around a different direction and keep going around following the path that you've drawn, or that they had set in their truck. So yeah, that's one example of a sweep. So with this, we need to give the path first. So using sketch path, and then I'm going to draw from the centre of this wall. I'm going to come out to the left, and I'll make it, let's say 1,000. This is just guesswork, but it is about 1,000. And then coming up to the centre of the other wall, you can see it isn't snapping to that that point that I want. So I'm just going to make an L shape or a right angle, and then finish it just by choosing cancel, and then start a new line on the centre of the wall there, and then across to the left. So then, as usual, we've got to join that corner using trim to corner, join those two edges. So that's my path. So if you think about it, we're going to have a profile that is the shape, pretty much, that you can see in elevation. Half of it. So we're going to draw half of this shape, and then it's going to sweep that profile around following this path. And whenever you're creating a sweep, you need to look for the place where you need to draw your profile, and that's this plane here that's come up automatically. So it is a reference plane, but it's one that you don't have to make. It makes it for you. And so I'll finish the path, fix finish, and then I'm going to go to the west elevation again, and I can see that crosshair that tells us again where that reference plane origin is. And so now, to make the profile, I'll just give you a little tip. Sometimes that edit profile button's greyed out, and if it is, you just need to click select profile to wake it up. So after you choose select profile, then you can click edit profile to draw the shape you need. So this one, it does take a bit of trial and error. And again, we're just trying to get the look of the roof. It doesn't need to be done with the exact measurements. So we've got the this curve and then essentially another curve. There's at least two curves. Sometimes you need to use more to get the join, but you should be able to do it usually just with two curves. So with the arc tool, I'm going to go from that corner, and then I'll start just coming up again at 45 degrees. And about 700, we'll have to massage this, but it's about that. And then bringing the cursor up and to the right, we can put the curve in, but you don't want it to be a tangential curve. In other words, you don't want it to be a part of a circle. Well, sorry, they're all parts of circles, but you don't want it to be, what's a quarter of a circle? No, that's half a circle. It's there is a word for it. Yeah, yeah. So you don't want it, it's not a quadrant, but it's something like that. So just a little bit below, in other words. So see how it's snapping? I've just got to bring it in a bit so it doesn't snap to that point. And I'll just do it there, and you'll see that's not right. But I'm going to cancel and show you that if you've got it like that, you can easily adjust the curve. Oh no, that's not right. So it should let me adjust the curve. Why is it doing the radius? And I've changed it again. Okay, this is one thing that they keep chopping and changing. Oh, here we go. Keep concentric. That's it. So yeah, just watch out for that option. So this sometimes gets turned on by default. You've got keep concentric. So when that's off, then you can easily adjust the radius just to fine tune it, but it does keep snapping, so you've got to just avoid that. And yeah, it's a bit fiddly, but in the end you'll get it to work. So that looks about right, but yeah, you've got to fine tune it. It's a little bit of experimenting there usually. So I've got that first curve, and then I might just shorten it a little bit because I know it's, again, just by eye a bit too long. And actually something that can help you here is just drawing in a temporary line from the midpoint of the roof path. And so for that, I'll go back to my floor plan, level 1 CL. And so not a temporary line, I'll do a reference plane. So on the Create tab, you've got reference planes there. You can do midstream while you're making the roof, that's fine. And so then I can draw, well, from the midpoint of any of these things. The midpoint of the wall is fine. And that'll just make it easier when I go back to my west elevation. I can see that reference there, which tells me where halfway is, and then I can adjust the arc accordingly. So I'm going to draw another arc. Now I've got the first one, and again bring it up at 45 degrees, and then you can see it will snap to get the tangent. And that's of course not looking very good, so I'll try again. So you will have to have a few goes at it to get the right look. So I've gone up too high, so I'll bring that down a bit, and then again just try and get the curve. That might be better, and then try again. That's more like it. So again, if the first curve's right, the second one should be as well, because it will just snap. And I'll just do that one more time so that you can see. When we draw this second curve, it snaps, you can see there, to give a smooth tangent between the two curves. But that one actually isn't as good, so I might just have another go at that. Yeah, a bit higher. Okay, that's no good as well, so have another try. That's better. So just keep comparing it to the elevation to see if you think it's close enough. I think that's probably alright. Maybe I can just extend this a little bit more. And the other thing to try when you're massaging this is the arrow keys on the keyboard. So while that arc's selected, I'm just going to press the right arrow, and actually, no, that's moving the whole thing. That's annoying. Shouldn't do that. Anyhow, we'll just leave it at that. There are options you can use to change the way it moves, but I don't want to go into that yet. So, again, just a bit of fine-tuning though, and you should be able to get that shape you need. And then I'm going to draw a line from the end of that arc and across, and then down and back to the right. So that should work as a profile. But you'll see there's one last issue, which I'll have to look at as well. So I'm going to finish it, and then just show you in 3D how that's coming together. So you can see there we've got a path, and then technically it should be able to sweep this profile along that path to give us the roof shape. But there's a technical problem you might come across. If I finish it, yeah, you can see it's telling me it can't make the sweep. And that's because it's too close to itself. It's going over itself. And this is the thing that really frustrates me about Revit. They're so focused on the construction that they won't let you model things that aren't buildable in real life, that can't exist in real life. Other programs will 3ds Max, AutoCAD, no problem, it'll let you make it. But Revit, again, they're fussy people, the guys who develop it. So you've just got to change it so that it is something that's possible, and in other words, doesn't intersect itself in real life. So you can do that. If you go back to edit the profile, first thing to try is moving this edge in the elevation just a bit to the right. So using the arrow keys, I'm just nudging it away from that centre line. And that hopefully will make it work. So I'll just try finishing that. Finish again. There we are. So you can see there's a little gap there. That's okay, we can cap that off. But now you can see we've got basically the roof form. Bit ugly, bit flat though, so I can go back and keep trying to make it better. And this is one of the key things to understand in Revit, that it doesn't need to be perfect the first go, because it's so easy to go back and modify things. That's the whole philosophy in the program, that you can revise instantly. That's where the name of the program comes from. So these arcs are the problem, and we're going to delete those and have a go at drawing some better ones. So there we go, that's probably more like the curve. And again, there's no way we can get up and measure this, so this is really all you can do, and it's quite common to just draw these things by eye, where the measurements don't really matter, because we're not changing this row. Okay, so that's a slightly better profile, and then when we finish it, yep, that's a little bit better. Don't be too fussy, but it's good to make it look decent, and that's it. So to put the fascia on this, you have to use another sweep. I'll let you have a go at that if you have time, but as long as you've got that basic form, that's enough to get you started. And again, good practice with the some of the modelling tools, but I want to come back and go through all of those tools that you get with Model in Place, you know, from first principles, and we'll start with extrusions and things like that later. So if you get all those things done though, then maybe the floors will help you to visualise that whole area, and now that you've used the floor tool, it shouldn't be difficult to go and add in little projecting floors. So I'll just quickly show you that using the floor tool. Architectural, of course, every time. And so again, you've got the option to use pick walls, but always remember that you can just draw the shapes you need using the line tool, or in this case I'll use rectangle, and I'm just going to click in the corner there and then bring it out to here. That's roughly where it finishes, even though I think it's coming out a bit differently. Yeah, so actually the stairs go into there, we just got a little step, so that edge should be back about there. You know that that's not legal anymore, you can't do that now if you're following the BCA. Yeah, you've got to have a landing there, 700. So it's an old building though, they won't make you change it if it's existing, so you can keep it like that. Those stairs also have a higher riser than you're allowed to do now as well, but we'll put that in afterwards. So as long as you've got the step there, and then this balcony that comes out can be done with another floor. So I'll finish that one and then go back to the floor tool, and again just with another rectangle. It's up against the boundary wall here in that corner, but then if you look at it, it's set back just a little bit from the edge of this wall. So it's about a brick and a half by the look of it. So I'm just going to take it down to here and make it come out roughly a metre. So if we change this to 1,000, you can always bring it out further if you think it needs more, 1,200. And then to get this edge to measure from the wall, the trick is to select it and just drag it a little bit above, so that you then get the measurement or the dimension there that you can adjust. So again, it's about 150, brick and a half roughly, from the corner. So I'll finish it there and just show you then what it's looking like in 3D. So those two little floors make a big difference to give you an idea how the elevation works. So this one is flush. This other floor, I'd be pretty sure, is set down. So I'll just say it is. It should set down or step down slightly. So that's the last thing I'll show you. To adjust the height of that floor, you simply select it, and then in properties you've got the height offset from level, and I'll make that, let's say, minus, well, it's an old building, so it's probably minus 100, roughly. These days, if it's a new building, you'd assume it's probably minus 150, but yeah, about a brick down, so yeah, minus 100 is alright. So that just means when you put a door there, it's going to be a little bit above that floor, which is how it should be. But use a different tool. So it gives you time to try those things. Again, they're the little annoying roofs. They're much more work than the others, even though they're tiny things. And again, good thing to try. Don't worry if the second one, though, is causing you problems. You can always come back to that as well.